Chapter: The Spirit of My Foremother.
One morning I realized,
Anastasia said softly, and her gaze seemed to go deep into the past.
That morning, Vladimir was not at home in his rented apartment. I couldn't find him with my ray. The day had begun on which many centuries ago my foremother had died in a dolmen. I always remember her on that day. I tried to speak to her, and she speaks to me. You too go to the cemetery on that day in memory of your relatives, to think about them and talk. I do this without leaving the glade. My ray helps me speak and see at a distance, and they feel my ray. That day I was remembering my foremother and trying to speak with her as always, but I did not sense her replies. Not at all. She was not reacting to me. This had never happened before. Then I started searching for her dolmen with my ray. I found it. I shone my light on it as hard as I could. My foremother did not react. Something unknown to me had happened. The spirit of my foremother was not in the dolmen.
Anastasia, please explain what you mean by a person's spirit. What does it consist of?
Of everything invisible that there is in a person, including certain predilections and sensations acquired during his mortal existence.
Does the spirit possess an energy analogous to one of the known energies?
Yes. It is an energy set consisting of multiple energies. After the corporeal existence of a particular individual ceases, some of these sets are subject to disintegration into individual energies, and are then used in plant and animal combinations, essential natural phenomena.
What is their power? What energy potential does a set of energies that have not been disengaged have?
They're different for each. The very weakest cannot even overcome gravitational energy. It will disintegrate later anyway.
Gravitational, the very weakest. Can one see its manifestation in something, perceive or feel it?
Naturally, a tornado, for example.
A tornado? A tornado that rips up trees by their roots and upturns. Then what energy does the strongest possess?
The very strongest. That is he. I cannot fully comprehend the power of his energy.
What about an average one?
The energy set of many average spirits already includes liberated thought energy.
What is the energy power and potential of this average set?
I've told you. Present within it is liberated thought energy.
Meaning what? What can you compare it to? How do you define it?
Compare. Define. Your mind, your thought, the awareness of what is most powerful. What kind of energy might they suggest?
The energy of a nuclear explosion. No, the process is taking place on the sun.
Everything you have named is equal to just a small particle of liberated thought energy. As for definitions, think them up yourself and use them to communicate with each other. Here nothing you have thought up is suitable. You may use what you know, multiplied infinitely.
What is the strength of the energy of your foremother's spirit like?
Present in it is liberated thought energy.
How did you find out about your foremother? How and where did she die? After all, this happened 10,000 years ago.
Generations of my ancestors have passed down the information about her, my foremother, who went to die in a dolmen.
Your mother told you about her?
When my dear Mama died, I was little and incapable of comprehending that kind of information. My grandfather and great-grandfather told me everything about my dear Mamas.
Can the spirit be seen with ordinary human vision?
Partially, yes. If the perception of spectrality, vision's color perception, is altered. If the internal rhythm is altered.
This is really possible?
Daltonism, a phenomenon you know, suggests that it is. You believe that this occurs only apart from the person's will, that it is merely a disease, but that is not so.
You said your foremother and your mother are worthy of having information about them passed down from generation to generation through the millennia. Where does the worthiness and value of this information lie?
My foremother was the last of the primary sources to have the capability and to know how and what a woman should think about when she was nursing her infant. Knowledge of people who lived 10,000 years ago, which began to be lost in civilization. This knowledge has been almost entirely lost today. My foremother was not at all old, but she went to die in the dolmen in order to preserve all this knowledge of the primary sources. When comprehension begins to return to people, when the need arises in them to transmit this knowledge to nursing women, they will later help each other know everything. Through her death in the dolmen, my foremother learned even more truths essential to women.
Why did she go into a dolmen specifically? How does a dolmen differ from an ordinary stone tomb? Why, without waiting for old age, did she decide to die in a dolmen? Was she moved by an understanding of her purpose or by superstition?
At the time, people had already begun putting less and less importance on nursing infants, and women were not offered the dolmens at their request. The old leader respected my foremother and understood that if he did not carry out her request, the new leader would not even want to listen to my foremother and would consider all her intentions mere whim. But the old leader could not force the men to build a dolmen for her. That is when the old leader gave his own dolmen to her. The men did not approve the leader's decision and refused to raise the dolmen's roof so that she could enter. The women assembled all night and tried to lift the heavy stone slab themselves, but the slab weighed many tons, and at dawn the old leader came. He could no longer walk, but he came anyway, leaning on his staff. The old leader smiled at the women, said encouraging words, and the women lifted the heavy slab, and my foremother entered the dolmen.
How does a dolmen differ from an ordinary stone tomb?
Very little, outwardly. However, living people went to die in the dolmens, as you call the stone tomb. A dolmen is not simply a cult structure made of stone, as it is now thought, but a monument to wisdom and to the great self-sacrifice of the spirit for the sake of future generations. Even today, it is important for its functional significance. Death in that kind of dolmen was not quite ordinary. The word death does not even fit very well here.
I can imagine. A living person immured in a stone chamber, truly an unusual torturous death.
The people who went into the dolmens were not tortured at all. The peculiarity of their death was that they meditated. They meditated into eternity, remaining on earth in spirit forever, having preserved certain earthly feelings. But the soul of someone who went into a dolmen to die loses for eternity the possibility of material incarnation on earth.
How did they meditate?
You now know what meditation is, especially from the ancient Eastern religions. Today there are teachings helping us to learn a small part of the phenomena of meditation, but unfortunately not its purpose. Right now, there are people who can meditate, separate a part of their spirit from their body for a while, and then return it. With the help of meditation in the dolmen, still during the body's life, the spirit completely detached and returned many times, as long as the flesh was alive. Then the spirit remained in the dolmen for eternity. Alone it waits eternally for visitors, in order to impart the wisdom of the primary sources to them. The flesh, even if it could live for a while, was in any case confined. But while my foremother was alive, her spirit had the opportunity to be in different dimensions and to return, and this gave it the opportunity to analyze with a great speed incredible by your lights, to hone the available truth. The people who died or went into eternal meditation through the dolmen knew that their soul and spirit would never be able to materialize again. They could never settle in any earthly flesh or matter. They could never go far from the dolmen for too long or too often, but in compensation, they had the ability to interact with a particle of the soul of someone who had come to the dolmen in the flesh. If you talk about the agonies of death and agonies in general, in this case they consisted of the fact that for millennia no one approached them to accept this knowledge. Their great tragedy lies in the absence of demand. Demand for the sake of which...
Anastasia, do you believe that it's important for a mother nursing her infant to have this knowledge and ability?
Indeed, very important.
Why? After all, the mother's milk merely nourishes the infant's flesh.
Not only his flesh, her milk can bear enormous information and sensitivity. After all, you have to know that each substance has its own information, emanation, vibration.
Yes, it does. But how can mother's milk transmit sensitivity?
It can. It is very sensitive. It is indissolubly linked with the mother's feelings. Even the taste of the milk changes depending on them. During stress that affects the nursing mother, breast milk can also be lost or clot.
Yes, it truly can. So no one visits your foremother? No one has visited for many millennia.
At first they did. Primarily generations of my relatives and the people who live there. Then disasters began to strike the earth. Migrations. The dolmen remained. But for the last few millennia, no one has gone to my foremother's dolmen to learn. The dolmens in general are being destroyed right now, because people don't know. When I was telling Vladimir in the taiga about the dolmens and my foremother, he said he might go to her dolmen. At that time, I explained to him that he would not be able to understand and sense my foremother's spirit and soul, and take in her information. A man cannot know the feelings and sensations of a nursing mother. Also, my foremother has been waiting for women, not men, for millennia. But women are not going to the dolmen, and only I communicate with my foremother once a year. On that day I wanted to communicate with her, to tell her something good, but I couldn't. My foremother's spirit was not by the dolmen, and I myself, not understanding why, quickly began guiding my ray around the dolmen, steadily increasing the diameter of my circles, and all of a sudden, I saw it. I saw it. In a small gorge, on the rocks, Vladimir lay on the stones unconscious. My foremother, her spirit, was leaning over him as a bundle of invisible energies. I understood. I had known even before how Vladimir had looked for the guides to go into the mountains to the dolmens far from the road, but had not found any guides. No one would agree to go with him for free. So Vladimir went into the mountains alone. He fell off the path into a gorge. He was wearing ordinary shoes, unfit for hiking through the mountains. He had no mountain gear at all. He wanted to be convinced of the dolmen's existence, to touch them. So he went into the mountains alone. On my foremother's memorial day, he was walking toward dolmens far from the roads. My foremother did not know why this man, who was completely unequipped for hiking mountain paths, was walking in the mountains. She was watching him, and when he slipped, and fell off and started rolling downhill, her spirit raced down like an elastic bundle of air. My foremother saved Vladimir. He did not hit his head on a rock, but he lost consciousness from the blows he received as he rolled down. She held his head with her elastic bundle of air, as if in her hands, and waited for him to regain consciousness. That was why she had not spoken with me. When Vladimir regained consciousness, she did not return to her dolmen. She remained below, in the gorge, to watch Vladimir scramble up to the path. Later, I realized that my foremother was on the path, because pebbles had started skittering down from the path. It was she, contracting like an elastic breeze, who had been throwing pebbles from the mountain path. She had wanted to help Vladimir descend from the mountain along the path. I too wanted this very much, and I began very quickly to run my ray along the path, so the path would not be so wet and slippery, and so that Vladimir would be able to reach his little apartment and treat his wounds. But when Vladimir climbed up from the gorge, he sat on the path examining the sketch drawn for him by an archaeologist at the Novorossiysk Museum. Then he got up and started off, limping, not down though, along the dry and now pebble-free path, but in the opposite direction, up. I froze in surprise, and I do not think my foremother immediately understood his intentions. He immediately veered from the path altogether and climbed through thorny bushes. I realized that he was climbing to my foremother's dolmen. He reached it. He sat down at the dolmen's portal, at the edge of the stone slab. He started unbuttoning his jacket. His hand hurt. It took him a long time to unbutton his jacket. When he did, I saw he had flowers under his jacket. 3 little roses. The stems of 2 had snapped. The roses had broken when he slid into the gorge and struck the stones. A few thorns were bloody. He placed the broken roses at the dolmen's portal. He lit a cigarette and said, "It's too bad the flowers broke. This is for you, my beauty, flowers. You must have been a beauty, like Anastasia. Smart and good. You wanted to tell our women about nursing their infants. But they don't know about you, and your dolmen lies so far from the road, it's hard for women to reach it." Then Vladimir got out his pocket flask of brandy, and 2 small metal cups, and took a handful of crushed candies out of his pocket. Vladimir filled the cups with brandy. He drank the brandy from one cup, and set the other on the dolmen's portal, and put a candy on it, and said, "This is for you, my beauty, my..." Vladimir did everything the way modern people do at a cemetery when they visit their close relatives or friends. but my foremother's spirit raced around him in a bundle of invisible energies. She was distraught and did not know how to behave. She was trying to respond somehow to what Vladimir had said, and to solidify the air in the form of her own flesh, but her outline was transparent and barely perceptible. Vladimir did not notice it. She kept trying to explain something to him, though he could neither see nor hear her, and so she raced around. The bundle of air skimmed the little cup. The cup overturned. Vladimir thought it was a chance breeze that had overturned the cup of brandy, and he joked, saying, "Why did you spill this expensive brandy, you good-for-nothing woman?" My foremother's spirit suddenly fell still in a corner of the dolmen. Vladimir poured more brandy into her cup, set a stone on top, and then another candy. Once again, as if to himself, he began to speak. "They should at least lay a decent path to your dolmen. You just wait a little longer. There should at least be a path to your dolmen, then women will take the path to see you. You'll tell them what they need to think about when they're nursing their infant. You must have had a very beautiful breast." Then Vladimir began his descent. Late that night he arrived at his apartment. He was sitting alone on his sofa in the cold apartment, binding his wounds and watching a video. He had been given a video to watch that people in different cities had copied and passed around. On the television screen, a large audience of mainly women listened to a speaker. He was talking about God and the power of a righteous person's spirit. Then he started talking about me, about how I was the ideal of a woman toward which one needed to strive. The power of my intellect and spirit was great, and I was helped by the forces of light. Now that I was learning more about the life of people of the ordinary world, I would be able to help them. Much that was good was said about me. Suddenly somebody said that I had yet to meet a real man, that the man I had met was not a real man. Others had also said that in Australia there was a young man worthy of me, and that I would meet him. A real man. While Vladimir, you have to understand. He was sitting alone, listening to these words all the while trying to bind the wounds on his feet with one hand. His other hand hurt badly from the battering. I rushed to Vladimir with my ray. I wanted to warm his wounds and drive out his pain. And to somehow say? He never hears when I speak to him at a distance, but this time I thought it might work. Probably because I wanted it so badly. Wanted him to hear how I loved him. Only him. And that only he, my beloved, was a real man. But I was burned and thrown into the grass. Something would not let my ray reach Vladimir. Again, I sent my ray to the room where he sat in front of the television. And I saw that kneeling in front of Vladimir, a bundle of invisible energy, was the spirit of my foremother. Vladimir could not see or hear her. He was watching and listening to the video, as my foremother warmed the wound on his legs with her breath. When Vladimir poured this horribly burning cologne on his wounds, my foremother tried to say something to him, but he did not hear her. My foremother's spirit is so powerful that nothing invisible can penetrate it. Even psychotropic weapons fly apart if they are aimed at her. She ignores them. There was no way I could step in. It would all be thrown off in any case. I could only watch. I watched and thought very quickly. What had happened? Why had the situation arisen? Why had the speaker spoken this way? Did he want to help me? Clarify something? What? Why did my ray speed so towards Vladimir? Naturally, I was afraid that Vladimir would be offended by the words, "not a real man," and that he would be jealous. All of a sudden, oh, how painful this was. Hurtful. Vladimir listened all the way through, sighed and said, "Great. A real man. And in Australia, I see. They're going to meet. Maybe they'll give me my son then." My ray trembled. Everything sort of clouded over. You have to understand. Vladimir was not jealous. Jealousy is a bad emotion, of course. But I wished he would be just a little, just the slightest bit jealous. But it was as if Vladimir had just handed me over to someone else. I couldn't stand it any longer and I cried out. I begged my foremother to explain what I had done wrong. Where was my mistake? Had I sinned? She did not answer until Vladimir had bandaged up his last wound. Then my foremother said with sorrow, "You should have simply loved my daughter. You should have thought about what was good for your beloved without glorifying yourself." I tried to make her understand that I wanted only what was good. But she said again softly, "You wanted pictures, music, poems, and songs for yourself, my daughter. Everything will come to pass. Your dream is strong, I know. It is for all people and the man you love. But for you it is going to be harder and harder now to win earthly love. You are becoming a star, my daughter. A star can be admired and loved as a star, not as a woman." My foremother said nothing more. I lost control, cried out, tried to explain or prove that I did not want to be a star, that I wanted simply to be a woman and loved. But no one heard me. "Please help me. I have understood so much now. I am not afraid for myself, I can take care of myself. It will take Vladimir longer to understand. Information like this leads him away from the truth. Let the dissemination of this cassette cease. It suggests to people and to Vladimir that I am an ideal, a star, that not he but someone else should be with me. I am not a star, I am a woman. I want to love the person I myself want to love. My path has not been determined by me alone. I was mistaken. I dreamed of making it so that people would talk about me, dedicate poems and songs to me, artists would draw. And all that did happen. Everything always comes true when I dream it, and so did this. Thank you for the poems and songs. Thank you to the poets. But I was mistaken. I dreamed it right. We do need poems. But I should not be a star. I wanted all this so that Vladimir would see and hear it and remember me. But I did not know when I was dreaming. Now I understand. I am becoming a star. Everyone admires stars. But they love simply a woman."
Anastasia, what are you saying? The distribution of the cassette, especially since people themselves are copying it, can't be stopped. This is an uncontrollable process. No one can stop it.
There you see. You can't. But Vladimir, he is an entrepreneur. Maybe the process is uncontrollable. He would still have done something. But he does not want to do anything, having reconciled himself to the fact that he and I are not a match.
End of chapter. Join us for the next segment of The Dimension of Love. Book 3 of the Ringing Cedars series, Forces of Light.